Go ahead and call the Thursday, June 11th Board of Commissioners Budget Work Session to order. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Adams to bring us the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Soon I'm gonna be the pastor on this board here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We can bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come today saying thank you. Father, thank you for what you've done for us already today. Thank you for bringing us through this meeting to where we are today. Father, we know that it's late in the day, but we know that you still are watching over us. We ask you to continue to watch over us. We ask that we move swiftly through this meeting and we do it decent and in order. Father, I ask you to protect us as we go home tonight. Protect our families that are at home as we're away from them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
County Manager, anything adjusting the agenda?
No, we'll start from the previous work session. There's some items that were previously requested that Assistant County Manager Deborah Shaw will go through, and then we will follow back up, start with personnel and compensation. I think we discussed the benefits and go through there. I'll turn it over to Assistant County Manager Deborah Shaw.
Real quick, we're gonna approve the agenda.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
And Mr. Chairman, we had that conversation. I'm always, worried about people who have children at home and families at home, which they didn't know they were going to be here this late. So I know we had this discussion about kind of consolidating some of these things off this agenda, even we have to have another meeting at some other point. But I think we need to be cognizant of some of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, and I'll talk about what we're going to cover before we approve the agenda. Just want to approve the agenda that was presented for the public. We'll move through, like we've done at previous work sessions, to a time certain and be respectful of that. And I'll also talk to the board about looking at additional budget workshops, because we're going to need probably one more to get us all the way through, based on time. Hearing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda by Chairman Jones.
Yes, I move that we approve the budget work session agenda at this time for July 11th, 2026.
Second. Commissioner, we've got a motion to approve the agenda, properly second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Yes.
So board, what we'll do is we had a couple due outs on the personnel side, so we're finishing up the personnel. We had two due outs around the 41 DSS positions that were vacated, that were vacant slots that were unfunded. And again, just as a point, you have abolished slots, you have 41 you have vacant slots that are, and then you have that are funded and vacant slots that are unfunded. And the other due out around that was around the critical positions, so we'd understand what the critical positions were. We asked the staff to have a conversation with the departments to look at those critical positions. And so we can start there, and then we'll address the other request from the Vice Chairwoman as well. And then we will move through that, make some decisions around those positions, then we'll move to community support. That's the order we're going to proceed. Vice Chairman Jones, is there a question on the order?
No, actually, it's just a statement. I just wanted to clarify because I'd like to make sure our community is clear. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, as there was a total of 102 positions, 61 abolished, and then unfunded 41. I'd just like to be clear and simple so that our community can understand that, as both will be covered today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And again, the due out was around, the request was around the 41 vacant positions that were unfunded, so we're going to get an update on that. And then we're going to get an update on the cost of the dollar amount for the critical positions. And then we'll revisit and look at any other questions from there. Vice Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, there was a second, as you all, the Board of Commissioners have received, as well as the Director of Social Services and Manager Greer. Actually, there was 2 requests, as I didn't have the opportunity. I know all the schedules are busy, and as you stated, to better understand and clarify the budget, as some of us had met with the budget team and individually prior to these sessions, I elected to choose to have my request done by email. Therefore, there's 2 requests that will be met today. And so I want to get that clear. The request, yes, 41, but there was also an additional request that Mr. Greer will be presenting today. That of to show that the total of 102, what it would look like if we use fund balance with 61 of the abolished, and what it would look like if we use fund balance with the unfunded. I think that's very important to be transparent with this critical issue to make sure that we're keeping things clear and transparent for our community. So there's 2 requests that we will go over today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Vice Chairman, that's why I alluded to, we're going to cover the 2 due outs from the staff, and then I would get to the requests that you had, that you presented to us by email.
Yes, we're on the same page. I appreciate that.
Is there anything else, Vice Chairman, before we proceed?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. ACM Shaw, if you will cover the due outs from yesterday.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. And this morning, the county manager and ACM Bradley, and they are Gaffney Smith, our Deputy Budget and Performance Director, and Brenda Jackson and myself. We met in the county manager's office surrounding the request that was asked of us. We went through the 60. I asked that the board's direction was to bring back the critical positions, and Ms. Jackson stated that all the positions, including the 61, were critical. Am I correct, Ms. Jackson? And so at that point, I was trying to follow the board's directive on adult protective care and child protective care, and at that time I went to ACM Bradley for her to come up with those positions, and at this time I'll be more than happy to turn it over to her.
So before we do that, just so we can keep in the order,
Okay.
if we can identify, so the first question was, with the 41 vacant unfunded positions, what that dollar amount was and to fund those 41 positions. And then the next one was around the 18 positions that if we can ask ACM Bradley to come up after that.
Okay. To fund the 41 unfunded positions, vacant positions, is approximately $2.7 million. And I went ahead because they're vacant positions, and if the board decides to move with the 2% COLA, the scale would move half of the COLA, which would be 1%. So we had to go in and factor that out, factor that in, so you're looking at $2.7 million.
Okay. Do we have that? That slide's in our deck, correct? Or no, it's not? It's
No.
okay.
We have a handout ready for you.
Perfect. Yep, if you can give us a handout.
Okay.
Thank you. Of course, your staff is on it. All right, now if we can go ahead and move to the critical positions where we discuss the child protective services as well as the adult protective services.
I'll turn it over to ACM Bradley.
Thank you.
So I do want to give a little background. In the summer and fall of 2025, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services began communicating about HR 1 and how it'll affect FNS and SNAP and the potential local fiscal impacts. In late December, Ms. Brenda Jackson shared with me the fiscal year 27 impact, which most of that was shared at the strategic session in January, which the impact is $2.2 million, or to be exact, $2,241,954, as well as the annualized impact in fiscal years beyond 2027, which is about $3 million, or to be exact, $2,989,272. The $2.2 million is effective October 1, 2026. So it must be accounted for in the fiscal year 27 budget, and it represents a county administrative cost sharing that went from 50% to 75%. Cumberland County's strategy to mitigate the fiscal impacts and loss of revenue due to H.R. 1 are within the county manager's Greer's fiscal year 27 recommended budget, and was accomplished through a 7.5% budget reduction across county departments, but specifically within DSS, to ensure the loss was being captured.
It's part of what the manager agreed to. We're going to look at that moving into the caseload study and the capacity and all that moving into September timeframe. That's what we discussed yesterday.
And so,
Outside of the budget
right,
process.
so, which then gives us the opportunity, if we figure that to be overburdensome, that we could add positions, I guess move positions in terms of adding some positions to maybe that line item and not another line item. That's September, but I think that that's an issue that we need to be able to know for these workers is on the table, is to look at this workload also, and that's why I bring that to, so we all know that that's one of the things we're looking at as we move forward, because I'm up in juvenile court and I see the burnout. I just see the burnout up there.
So County Manager Greer or ACM Shaw, to Commissioner Adams' point, as we move through those studies, or what we're going to work through, if there's vacant positions that are unfunded, those can be brought back to the board at any time.
Yes, sir.
Through a budget amendment,
Yes.
and that would be funded from fund balance, correct?
The reason why I say September is because we'll have the actual fiscal year results of this current fiscal year, and we can use that savings to deploy against some of these critical needed positions if funding is there. Was it yesterday? It's been a long day. Yesterday. And that gives us a good lens of what we have in order to address this need. I will say in our discussions this morning that we understand the critical nature of DSS and the plight in which they're going through. And as I said yesterday and I said this morning, we need to look at it in a different framework and a different mindset to try to solve this issue. And when I say that, come up with some strategies in order to address the turnover and address the vacancies, people going other places, and the caseload. So it's got to be a comprehensive thing, but I need to make sure that we have funding in order to do it. And I won't really know that from this fiscal year until probably around September.
Commissioner Tyson, Commissioner.
Go ahead, you can go ahead.
Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess this is kind of directed at the manager, just trying to understand your budget flow and kind of how you get to your recommended budget. My experience typically with budgeting is you kind of start at zero year to year, and you put in your budget request for that year. And so I guess my question is, and maybe you're going to say, hey, government just does it differently, but would we not kind of look at what last year's operational budget and field positions were and start there, and then with every department? I'm not just talking about, DSS or health or sheriff or whoever, and kind of look at the proposed new positions on an annual basis?
Yes. We started, I really started as soon as the budget is approved and as soon as the fiscal year ends, and I'm literally saying 7/1, I started looking at the budget, talking with budget, and projecting out where we start. When we actually start the budget process, we look at everyone's budget, where they ended, and what we know at that time is going to impact us. And so I always tell all the departments from the start, hold back on any new positions. That's the first directive. This year, the different directive was, since that everyone provides 7.5% of their overall budget. Outside of that, it's really start with the adopted budget from the previous year and looking at the landscape of what we know, and that's the baseline. So whatever was approved today, or I say not today, but anyway, I'm sorry, a little joke. When we approve this adopted budget, I start from that point and then start looking at the next year and looking at where we're going to go. And we start talking, this year we started in August, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we started in August. So it's not really zero, but I have to start from really the base budget, the base adopted budget. And then we go from there. The biggest impact what really drives everything with each budget year is the revenues, because that's what's going to impact what we can and we cannot do. And we did not realize, we knew that we started to see some softness in property tax and particularly sales tax in early September, late October. And so that was a little driver of everything. And then thinking about the economy also, that has a major impact too.
Okay, a follow-up, Mr. Chair. So then, kind of following up and, understanding, we've got some factors here we can't control in terms of the lost revenue and the 6 million mark. We didn't cause that, so we can't control that. We have to adjust for it. And so I guess my question is, whether it's fund balance, whatnot, whatever it is, if we make modifications to that proposed budget that you've given us, we'll have to find the money for that position, plus we'll have to find the money to offset the impact of this $6 million somehow. Because if you're using that money to offset that impact, you gotta find the money twice, don't you?
Yes. Now, I wouldn't say twice, but we will have to find the money from, out of a different budget operation. Fund balance, again, I look at it, I try not to use, based on board policy and what we have to carry over, and look at the landscape. I don't really make a decision about fund balance until September. And one of the caveats probably moving forward, as we look at fund balance, we may have to change some capital-related policies in some respects, but that would be based on what happens with the economy moving forward.
And one more question, Mr. Chair. So if we start, and I know we're gonna have a discussion about this, but if we decided to start appropriating fund balance, impact on our credit rating, impact on our ability to go out for debt. I know we don't have our debt managers here with us, but just as your knowledge and experience.
The use of fund balance will impact the debt rating. I will tell you, and Robin was on the call with the LGC, one of the largest cities in the state was going out for $200 million worth of debt, and the state treasurer said, your expenditures are out of line and your fund balance is kind of out of line. So they do look at the draw on fund balance and what the particular uses are for, because in the rainy, really, at the end of the day, it used to be 8%, but now it's governed by what your peer counties are and what their fund balance is collectively. So whatever the fund balance is for your population group, you then have to somewhat be right in line with that. But to the main point, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice.
That's okay.
That'll be short. That's great.
It's also capacity. It's also capacity.
It's also capacity too. And so,
We got a lot.
we get, the debt market will get concerned if we have draws on our fund balance. They're not, I don't want to say not sustainable, but if we're using fund balance generally to operate and not using revenues and to operate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman, would you recognize?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like for the record to reflect that as the Vice Chairwoman, Commissioner at Large, and Liaison for the Social Service Board, as well as an ambassador for child safety and adult abuse prevention, I am fully going to be supporting Director Jackson and the Social Service Board. I cannot endorse budget cuts that jeopardize the safety of children and vulnerable adults. Furthermore, we do have an alternative solution available, such as utilizing emergency reserves from the fund balance, which would avoid compromising these essential services. And in my opinion, personally and professionally, for the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, if we do choose to reject this viable options, and allow critical protection to lapse, in my opinion, this would be very irresponsible and negligent. And so furthermore, if that happens, I will not participate or support actions that create a risk. And last but not least, if I'm reading this correctly, we do have 6.98 million fund balance to fund 102 positions. Therefore, 6.8 million fund balance is less than 8 million remaining of the 3% fund balance due. Again, that's going to be 6.98 million to the fund balance to fund 102 positions, and then that means that 6.8 million fund balance is less than 8 million remaining of the 3% fund balance due. I would like full consideration of these commissioners to take that in mind, as money is important, but that of the children's safety and this community and vulnerable adults trumpets that of not utilizing funds to secure the safety of our community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. County Manager Greer, just a quick, our fund balance position,
Currently,
as we're calculating our fund balance for if there's use of our fund balance.
Approximately $8.7 million. I will say that fund balance, recurring expenses and fund balance, the next year we would be looking at trying to find almost $10 million to address these positions. The 6.9 there, plus the 2.9 the required expenses that will come because of the big beautiful bill that impact next fiscal year.
So, and one question beyond that, so the fund balance, and what have we committed anything from that fund balance?
The only thing, we've already committed $3.9 million, 3.2 for one-time items related to critical one-time expenditures or things that are going out will probably end of life and that causes some exposure. And then there's approximately $632,000 related to health-related programs that they have for fund balance that we use for their programs. And please, but this goes back to roughly 2000, 2001, when we had Medicaid maximization.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get 8.7, we've got about 3.9 there, so you got about 4.8 that's sitting there uncommitted.
Ms. Shaw told me it's actually $8 million.
8.6. Should be about 8.6.
I got 8 million,
Okay.
2,900.
All right, so 8 million and 3.9 committed of one-time or other items. So you got about 4.1 million that is there.
So
No, it started at 12, and they've used 3, so they're down to 8.
Yes.
Right.
We've
It
already
started at
used-
12. That
It's all-
3% was 12.
Let me slow down. Let me start
Yeah,
over.
please,
Yeah.
let me clarify what I'm asking.
Okay.
What I'm asking
And
for
I stated 8
is
million, so I was correct.
I got it right.
our fund balance.
Policy.
We ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So our fund balance before any commitment,
$518.58.
And then you have a commitment of 3.9 million.
$3,946,578.
right.
And that remains $8,290,940.58.
All right, so it's 8 million uncommitted. Okay, I wanted to walk down all those numbers so everybody had a level set playing field on where we were. I'd like to call Vice Chairman Jones. You're recognized.
Thank you. So let the record reflect that I was correct when I stated 8 million remaining of the three-fund balance. I appreciate you all making sure my numbers were correct, as I stated in the first place. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Vice Chairman, and that was more for me, my clarification, so I could walk down what the top number was all the way down. I wasn't saying you were incorrect.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying anyone was saying that. I just wanted the
All right,
record
thank
reflect
you.
that I stated it correctly the first time.
And again, I was trying to clarify so we had where we were stepping down through this. Director Jackson is here with us, and if she is willing, I'd like to have her a couple things. One, understand in the letter that was presented to us that there was 2 plans presented, understand what those 2 plans are, and then if there's anything you want to add in around the critical positions that were identified and outlined of those 22, would appreciate that information as well, and thank you for being here.
Good, I think it's evening now. Good evening.
Good evening.
Commissioners and county management and all that are present. I want to thank the Cumberland County Social Services staff for being out here this evening. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity, hopefully, to provide some clarity, maybe some understanding, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions that you may have. First of all, I want to thank the county manager, the assistant county managers, Ms. Shaw and Ms. Bradley, along with the county budget staff and the DSS staff has been so involved in this work. It has been stressful at the least, and a lot of work put into this. We did meet this morning, and I do appreciate Chairman Dervier, you giving me the opportunity to speak, because I do believe there's some opportunity to provide clarity to the discussion that was had this morning. First of all, it was a very long discussion, and we covered a lot of information. I think it's very critical to highlight a couple of things that were shared. First of all, at Department of Social Services and as a director, I've always prided myself in being proactive. Always. We saw this happening last year. And so in August of last year, I asked for a fiscal strategic plan and asked for that continuously every single month in preparation for the One Big Beautiful Bill. I don't wait till the last minute to do things. I asked every single month for August for a plan to develop together with county management and county budget a strategic plan to address this very issue that we're sitting here today for. And so that didn't happen. And so we find ourselves at the last minute being here. So I want to just say that first of all, because I hope that you believe that I'm a responsible leader and that you charge me along with my board to be proactive and to see these things coming. With that said, I shared that with the county management today. I also shared, and I thought it was very important, I have shared continuously the staffing crisis that we've been in, verbally in writing. Since my return back, I think 90 days after I got here, I sent a letter to county management about the staffing crisis that we were in. I think it's very important to understand the landscape, because there's a lot of information behind the numbers that you see on paper. When you see on paper all these vacancies that social services have, then you wonder, oh my God, they've been sitting there for 2 years. So I think it's important to bring it into context. First of all, we are still recovering from COVID. Prior to COVID, we averaged about 75 vacancies a month. That's what we usually average. During COVID, those numbers spiked to well over 200 vacant positions. So you're talking from 2020 and then moving into post-COVID around 2023. And we got those numbers down to where they are now, to about 140 positions. I also think it's very important to put in context that in November of 2023, Medicaid expansion came into play, and we thank this board for adding 57 new positions. So when you look at 57 new positions that you approved in 2023, but you got to think about, you may approve them in 2023, but the time it takes for that position to become approved by this board and then go through the process where they're in a situation where we can then start recruiting for is about 6 months. So now you're talking, we're into 2024 with 57 new positions. So I am very proud of the work that we've done to be looking at, when I came back to Cumberland in October 2022, it was 177 vacancies. And so then you look at, fast forward, you add then the Medicaid expansion positions in 2023. And so to say we have 140 vacancies is a little bit of an anomaly there because you have those 57 new positions. We added 30,000 new cases with Medicaid expansion. So when you look at these positions, some of these positions are Medicaid positions. And so I think when you're looking at just raw numbers, then when you look at, well, what positions, and I shared that today, this morning at the meeting, and when you look at those 140 positions, there are very few like support type positions, like things like processing assistants, housekeeping. Over 95% of the positions are income maintenance caseworkers, which we need to administer the public assistance programs. We're under mandatory performance standards, and when we don't meet those standards, for instance, for Medicaid, all errors that we make are 100% county paybacks. And then you look at the One Big Beautiful Bill that's adding additional workloads for both Medicaid and the food and nutrition program. You add to the fact that we have worked hard, overtime, evenings, weekends, that when you say the work is getting done, because that's what I heard. That's what I was hearing is, well, how have you been doing this work with all these vacancies? It has been difficult at best. Right now, these workers are working 7:30 to 7 p.m. at night, 4 days a week. At one point, the overtime was so large that as the staff left, we have to pay that out. We didn't have enough money in the budget to pay out the comp time. So then we had to stop staff from working overtime because they were billing too much comp time, and they don't get paid. It's compensatory time. And so when you look at those 140 positions, you got to count into that those Medicaid positions, that they're economic services. And then we talked about child protective services. Those numbers sound low, but in child protective services, we also are dependent on the community social services aides. They do the court-ordered transportation. They supervise court-ordered visits. And so they are a part of child welfare. The social workers can't do this work by themselves. It takes that support staff. And so there are an awful lot of social service, community social services assistants on this list. Our cottage parents in our group home, same problem. They're being paid minimum wage to stay with children that are often violent, but we also got licensing requirements. And so you can't take someone who has minimum qualifications because they have to meet other qualifications like CPR and other things. So all those positions are hard to fill. So when we start talking about critical positions, almost 95 positions that I was asked to look at reducing or abolishing were critical. So the directive that we look at, or the ask that we look at critical positions, mostly what's on the list were already critical positions. So there's not a bunch of housekeeping positions and drivers and those kinds of things. There are social workers and caseworker positions. And so I just want to make sure that that's clarified in terms of these numbers that were just given. It may sound like there's a small number of social workers, but there are not just social work positions and casework positions, but again, those workers that support child protective services. As far as the request that was submitted, we submitted initially to abolish 27 positions, which were time-limited positions, and some of those Medicaid expansion positions that we had not been able to initially fill that were new. We also cut, as instructed and as directed, 7% out of one of our budget orgs, our main operational org, and 7.5% out of our foster care and adoption org. And so we cut somewhere around $1.8 million per the 7% that we were asked to do. And again, we were asked in one org to cut 7.5%. And then we offered up 27 positions to abolish, and we asked rather than abolish and unfund to freeze positions. And so we then went back to the drawing board and today offered up additional positions out of the group home to come up to $3.9 million. So we offered up 3.9. We knew and we anticipated the $2+ billion we were going to lose in SNAP administration due to the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we believe we did that. And so I thought it was critically important that we share a little bit of background information. And finally, and I'll close, but finally, you received my letter. We're hanging on by a wing and a prayer. You have social workers carrying 30 and 40 cases, and they're only supposed to carry 15 cases. You might say, well, you've been surviving with those vacancies. They're covering those vacant caseloads. These workers here that do economic services, carrying well over 1,000 cases. We've been working overtime since COVID. There's a saturation level that anybody gets to in overtime, that when it starts affecting decision-making, productivity, and quality. And if we are going to be prepared to reduce our payment error rate for SNAP because of the One Big Beautiful Bill where we don't have to pay a percentage of the benefits, and I think Commissioner Devier, when that data first came out in the 2024 data, it was around 22 million. I would say I'm proud that Cumberland County has been selected by the state because our error rate has dropped down way under 6%. For 2025, it was 2.5%. And it's like 4% now. Well, we've been selected by the state to be best practice. But the large counties drive the payment error rate. And if Cumberland County, we don't have these income maintenance positions, then that error rate is not going to get down, and it's going to affect the state and everyone else, and we're going to be looking at major fiscal impacts next year. And so that's part of looking forward. And so I like to go home at night and feel like I can sleep. I'm struggling with that, with the current workforce we have and the current workloads we have now. This will exacerbate that. And so I would hope that this commission will consider the recommendation that Commissioner Jones had put forth, who is also a social services board member, who we've kept well informed. This issue and this crisis that we're in here in Cumberland County is not new. I have kept county management well informed of the crisis we're in. You can't expect to keep squeezing water out of a turnip. You can't. You can't expect that you got counties paying more than Cumberland County, the largest county in this region. When the class and comp study was done, I said to county management, it's great, it's comparable, but it's not competitive. It's not competitive. And you got counties doing salary negotiations. We talked about this morning. You got counties doing sign-on bonuses, retention bonuses, all of those things, and we haven't been able to get those things. And so, again, I just am very concerned, and I think my letter speaks for itself in terms of my statutory responsibility.
So thank you, Director Jackson. A couple things that I wanted to make sure you clarified, and I appreciate your comments, and they were heard. So in your letter, you talked about 2 plans for reconsideration. Can you speak to those 2 plans and what that entails?
So our first plan that we submitted on June 2nd, I submitted it to the county manager, and that was after the meeting, Chairman Deviere and Vice Chairwoman Jones, that we met and talked about reconsidering the 61 positions. I submitted that request for reconsideration, and that consisted of abolishing 27 positions, also included the 7% reduction in one org and 7.5 in another org, which was $1.8 million, and that was at around 3.2 million. And we asked to freeze 22 positions rather than abolish, and reinstate somewhere around 15 positions, critical positions in child protective services, legal, those positions like that. That was my initial request. And then this morning, I was told yesterday about a meeting, so this morning I submitted a second request that added 4 more positions to be abolished from the group home. The initial directive that I was given was that I could not consider certain organizations, and that included the group home, the care center, foster care and adoptions. I was limited in what I could select positions from. I did offer up 4 positions out of the group home, and so that came up to 31 positions to abolish, including some time-limited positions that we had. And that brought it up to $3.9 million reduction.
So the recommendation you made this morning, or the recommendation you made this morning was 3.9 million, which was 31 positions, abolishing, freezing 22 vacant positions, 7% reduction in one operational fund, and 7.5 in another operational
That's
fund.
correct.
For a total of 3.9 million. So it would be down basically the initial request, or the draft budget has 6.9 million, so that would be a reduction, a $3 million gap.
Yes, sir, and I also added to that, asking not to unfund positions. Not to unfund, so that was for the total of 102 positions, 61 that were slated to be abolished and 41 unfunded.
So let me just clarify before I let the board ask some questions on them and be respectful of Director Jackson's time and position. So those are 2 different things. So if we go back and say we want to keep all the 102 positions, that means they're fully funded. In the request that has 3.9 million with 31 abolished and 22 vacant, that's a $3.9 million. So those are 2 different plans. Are you saying your recommendation, your position now is 102 positions we don't do anything with? We keep them funded. We don't abolish it.
That's probably, if you allow me to back up a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
So initially, we were asked on March 31st to reduce our budget organization, our main budget organization that supports mandated programs. We were asked to reduce that one organization in salaries and vacant positions only by $4.2 million. That $4.2 million in vacant positions equated to 61 positions. Okay? And that once the manager released his budget, that those 61 positions were being proposed to be abolished. Okay? So my first request for reconsideration that we met about was only about the 61 positions last week. And so that proposal that I submitted for reconsideration, because I knew nothing about the 41 positions until after that meeting. I knew nothing about the 41 positions. I only was working from the 61 positions. So that's why the recommendation back to me was to reduce the positions by 27 abolished, and the 7% out of one org, 7.5 out of another org, totaling 3.66 million, because I knew nothing about the 41 unfunded positions until last week, the latter part of last week after our meeting. So the 41 positions just came to my attention.
Okay, so then this position that I just spoke about, the 3.9, is really what I think I'm understanding you say is that reconsideration only dealt with the 61 abolished positions.
So that's right. The 3.6 was the 61 abolished positions. When I found out about the 41,
You wanted to freeze 22 of those.
I wanted to freeze 22 of the 61, and then I found out about the 41.
Okay.
So the 41, I went back and looked to see what I could possibly feel comfortable abolishing, and I added 4 more that came up to the 3.9 because this 41 was new to me.
Okay. I think that it gives a position on what your position is. It's that 3.9 position plus maintaining the 41 unfunded positions.
Correct.
And then just to speak to the critical positions, that was the other question we had for you. There were 22 that have been identified as critical positions based on some of the criteria we talked about yesterday. We directed staff yesterday to have conversations with you specifically, as well as any other department heads, to look at critical positions. APS, or Adult Protective Services, and Child Protective Services were specifically mentioned. Are there other, I think that's got us to the 22 positions. Are there other critical positions that you would characterize as critical?
And that's why I would say it's more than that, because you're looking at the community social services aides and group home staff. That's additional 8 positions. The positions are in both abolished and
I understand.
and 41. And then there's another 8 for the abolished, about 30. But we also have 15 income maintenance and 37 15 income maintenance and unfunded, 37 and abolished, for a total of 52. And so those income maintenance positions are equally critical, because, you know, we're going to get new workload demands under the One Big Beautiful Bill. Work requirements for both FNS and SNAP. The citizens are going to have to come in more often for recertification, and so all recommendations from North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and even communication to the County Commissioners Association, is we're going to be facing an increased workload for the income maintenance staff.
So thank you, Ms. Jackson, or Director Jackson. I'm going to open up the board. Board, I would just ask, never mind. I'm going to open up to the board. The last comment I'll say is, Director Jackson, we had a discussion around retention in our Health and Human Services, DSS, and the Health Department. We've talked about reclass. This board, now that it's brought to this board's level, is going to have those conversations as we talked about yesterday in September. That's not something we can talk about in the budget.
Sure.
Because we just can't move that quickly. As you know, you've been in government a long time.
I have.
A lot longer than me. And so you understand that, but we are going to have those conversations as we get that caseload study, as we look at comp, and we look at those things. So I just want you to understand, and I want to make sure your team understands that we have heard that, and we've heard that, and this board's going to look at it just like we've looked at other critical areas that we have when it comes to public safety or education. So with that, I will open it up to board members, and these are questions for Director Jackson. And again, just ask where she's we normally wouldn't have department heads briefing this, but we wanted to allow Ms. Jackson the opportunity to do it because she's a subject matter expert. Vice Chairman Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few key points. Number one, the consultant said at our work session, one of our primary consultants on Monday, that fund balance was robust for Cumberland County. Number two, if we took one of this, I guess it's for the manager or for one of his individuals on his team. So if we took one-time expenses out of the budget to use fund balance to free up reoccurring general funds to continue funding the DSS positions, would that not be a consideration? And I say that before you answer is because, again, as you stated, I serve on the Social Service Board. I appreciate all these social workers that continue to come in. I appreciate you as well, Director Jackson, as I've done all I can do. People can say I get too passionate, but I have been emphasizing this, and let the record state too, when we did have a meeting that I initiated as the liaison for the 61 abolished positions to be looked at and to be considered, I didn't know, even as the liaison, so obviously we need some more effective communication within this board about the 41 unfunded. And to be fair and transparent to Mr. Greer and his staff, since we can openly go and talk to the budget department, and I mean, I'm not going to throw him under the bus because it is what it is. Somebody or certain people on this board must have said, because no, it was not a joint, a collaborative 7 consensus. Mr. Greer is not, and he's too intelligent for that, and his finance company to just, hey, out of nowhere, the 41 unfunded positions. So obviously there were some members on the board. We can be accountable, which is fine if that's the direction they want to go. But I'll be the one to be transparent for the community. If we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it open. So if I have a meeting with myself and the chairman, and I'm understanding just as, appreciate your transparency, Ms. Jackson, as I will be as well, and 61 positions were discussed. I don't know if somebody made a request or wanted them to look into the 41. Maybe they did or did not. But either way, I just want it to be known as a liaison, as I'm pushing hard to be fair for my community and your board. I certainly didn't know anything about a 41 until I found out the same thing you did, and I just want the record to be known for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. County Manager Greer.
I had no conversations regarding with any commissioners about anything prior to the budget, and especially the 41 unfunded positions.
Thank you, County Manager Greer. Assistant Manager Shaw.
And I did not either, and the reason why is because when I'm helping to prepare the county manager's budget, is his budget. It's his time to release it to the board, and we have conversations with department heads then. I never get ahead of the county manager, not the prior county managers and not the current one.
Thank you both. Commissioners, other questions for Director Jackson or comments around this? And if there's aren't any questions for Director Jackson, I don't want her to have to stand up here. So let's address comments correction. Let's address questions for Director Jackson, and then once we don't have any questions, then I will let you make comments or opine what you feel you need to, but I would not like to leave Director Jackson standing up there. Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Director Jackson, for being here tonight and for your passion for what you do. I know it shows in your department, your employees being here tonight speak volumes, and our employees, and thank y'all for being here as well. I know it's been a long day. A couple of questions I have kind of around the alternative plan that you presented.
Sure.
And I really just want to make sure I understand the ins and outs of it.
Yes, sir.
So under that plan of the 3.9 million that you're proposing that we look at, are all those positions, because I know there's a lot of different funding sources that y'all have at DSS,
Yes,
and y'all got to keep track of all that.
Yes, sir.
Are all those positions general fund positions in the county, or are some of those from other funding sources?
So there might be a budget question, but I would assume that all the positions are in the general fund, and then I don't know. No, I think budget needs to answer that.
Or the group home 4388 is outside of the general fund.
Okay.
Any other ones that's outside the general fund that I can think of? Just those 5. Just those 5.
4388.
Commissioner Tyson, follow up.
Okay, and
I got you.
with kind of the alternative you've presented, and I know you've stressed how difficult it has been since COVID to kind of get your vacancy moving in the downward direction. I applaud you for the hard work you've done there. With the positions that you would leave for us to either have funded or freeze, where we could reactivate as a board, do you have kind of a recruitment strategy, and can you speak to that? I know I kind of looked at presentation that Ms. Shaw had done with the proposed budget and compared it to past fiscal years, and there's a position section in the budget. And I know the vacancies in FY25 dropped by about 24 positions.
That's right.
And then FY26 was about 15 positions.
That's
So as we're looking at kind of that delta, can you speak to kind of your plan to help if we leave some of these positions either funded or frozen, what your plan would be to continue to drive that vacancy?
So we developed a strategy when I returned in October of 2022. The problem with the strategy is we're at capacity with that strategy. So I can share with you all the strategies we put in place. First of all, we built a great relation for social work. We built a great relationship. I sat on the Social Work Advisory Board with Fayetteville State University, Methodist University, and UNC Pembroke, and looking at trying to recruit social work. What you find with that is that there's no longer an interest in doing public service social work, meaning child welfare. They want to do mental health, those kinds of things. And so I want to thank Commissioner Adams. He's constantly with Fayetteville State making sure we stay connected with Fayetteville State. And I sit on their advisory board. We also partner with Fayetteville State right now on the social work virtual training. And we're actually going to be on PBS next month doing a special on teaching social workers how to real world reality, because this is tough work out there, because that's part of retention. And so we were able to find that free national service where social workers are getting virtual training. So that's the work that we're doing with the schools. UNC School of Social Work, their master's program just created a public service track to encourage more social workers to go into public service, and we've connected with that. We've done job fairs. We do Elder County job fairs and any job fair that we can find. We used to do our own. We've done interview blitz where we come in on Saturday and we interview 100 people all day on Saturday. We do pre-done. The staff are on continuous interviews, so the supervisors every week interview. The problem you have is people don't show up for the interview. Then if they show up for the interview, they don't, by the time you get through the reference check stuff piece, then the background check has issues. Then you get a start date. Then as soon as they get an offer letter, what often happens is they go to another county with that offer letter and negotiate. Or in Child Protective Services, they're required to have 72 hours of pre-service training. It is a state requirement. They can't do anything with social work. However, once they get that training, they can take that certificate and use it in any county. So you got a Cumberland County who will send their staff all over North Carolina to get that training, and then they'll take it and go to Sampson County, Bladen County with a smaller caseload. So we lose staff for that. We have a state training center that the county leases in our building, and they rarely ever offer state training here in Cumberland County. So county cars have been helpful. We also even went as far, I'm laughing because we've tried so many things, like even having staff recruit for us. Look, you know somebody that want to work for us? We do all of that. And so, what else have we done? I'm drawing blank. But those are the kinds of things that we're doing. The problem is oftentimes we can't negotiate salaries. We can't say, well, you're an income maintenance caseworker and Bladen County is offering you $5,000 more. We don't have that flexibility to do that. And so anything I missed, staff, I'm drawing a blank of strategies that we've employed. We actually came to the county 3 years ago and presented a internship program. I actually did a budget proposal for recruitment and retention. I met with Cumberland County Schools, NC Works, all 3 universities here, FTCC, And the HOPE program with FTCC, and we set up, and I put forth a proposal even before Ignite to bring high school students to come in and help us with clerical support. They can do filing. They can be runners. They can help with front desk. They can do those kinds of things. High school students and college students. I presented that in my county budget over 3 years ago to create an internship program for both high school students, and that was before Ignite. And so those are the kinds of things that we're doing, and I think it's my job to constantly keep county management informed of the challenges and what we're seeing as a result of why people are leaving. The other thing I just want to say, and I think it's important, this ecosystem is different. So we have jurisdiction over Fort Bragg, and that means any Child Protective Services case that happens at Fort Bragg, we have jurisdiction. Meaning we're doing an investigation on Fort Bragg, working with their CID, their law enforcement, their hospital, their mental health. It's a whole different ecosystem. It's like another whole city over there. And you take a social worker, say from a Sampson County that has no experience working with the military, they don't know what command is. You get a Child Protective Services report on a soldier and you say you need to go talk to command, they glaze over. What is CID? Over at Fort Bragg, they got their own school system. So we're dealing with the Cumberland County school system and the Fort Bragg school system. We're dealing with Cape Fear Valley Hospital and that. And the last thing I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I'm passionate about that, and I just think that it needs to be clear. Mental health. We have, right now, I'm sitting here with 3 or 4 kids sitting over at Cape Fear Valley with no place to go. I got kids all across North Carolina with no place to go. I got kids in Arkansas, Utah, Washington, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and we've even had kids overseas right now with no place to go. These social workers work all day long on a case and then turn around and get a call and say, your foster care placement just disrupted. And then they got to get in a car and drive to Georgia and go pick up a kid. We work 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And these cases are horrendous. They're not easy cases. Mental health, substance abuse, fatalities. This work is hard.
Commissioner Tyson, you follow up?
One more follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chairman. And Director Tyson, thank you for sharing that. And I hope what you've seen from this board, as the chairman stated, our commitment to you and to look at this comp and classification study that's going to come back that the manager's working on. And, kind of as a segue to that, I know in talking with Sheriff Morgan, for example, he has a really hard time and a challenge in retention and in retaining people. He can get them in the door, but he has a hard time keeping them.
Same thing.
So one of my big concerns is, as we look at the results of that comp and classification study, there's going to be a result of that study. And most likely, we don't know what the result is, but most likely it's going to be that we need to make some adjustments in the positive direction in terms of the expense for our employees, which I think we should really take seriously in doing. And so one of my concerns is, when we get to that point, if we don't take some action now, will we be able to accommodate the results of that study, given what other cuts we're facing? And that's a big concern I have, because we have people, like you said, that are showing up every day, that are in the door every day, boots on the ground, getting their feet dirty, getting their hands dirty, and they're passionate about what they do. And I'm really concerned about how we're going to find to be able to resource them based on the results of this study with the cuts that we're looking at from the big, beautiful bill, but also, just in general from a revenue side. So that's one thing that concerns me. I just wondered, can you give a few comments on kind of that, as we look to make sure that our employees that we have now are being made whole and paid fairly?
Commissioner Tyson. It's real hard, because it's hard because, it's definitely no competition. I think the plight of the sheriff's department is the same plight as social services, is the same plight as schools. I mean, we all can write the book. I mean, and we're not competing with the schools or with the sheriff's department. But our plight is equally pressing in crisis. We can't do this work without the sheriff's department, the Fayetteville PD, all the law enforcement agencies. We are a supporter of them, just like we are a supporter of the schools. For every case that these caseworkers approve in food and nutrition and SNAP program, it means kids at that school get to eat free. It means that a child who is in high school who needs to take the SAT get a reduced rate to take the SAT. It means a teenager who's looking to get their driver's license get a reduced rate in driver's license. It means that homeless families can at least get a cell phone where they can call their doctor or they can make services. What we do overlap. The most referrals that we get in this county comes from Cumberland County schools. My staff are in those schools, every one of these schools, every single day, helping the schools support the health, the well-being, the safety, and the educational needs of kids. In economic services, a child cannot get Medicaid if they don't go through their wellness, all those things, so they're school ready. We all are here to support each other, but I'm just going to be frankly honest, and I'm not trying to be ugly or anything, but it just doesn't feel good to hear that the sheriff's department and the school system needs are being addressed because of their retention and recruitment challenges, and we are scraping, and they got just as many vacancies as we have. If you look at the sheriff's department report that was posted, they got 145 vacancies out of 600. I got 140 out of 800. Help me equate, why am I being forced to abolish positions? They get to abolish positions and reinvest their dollars and giving their staff retention bonuses. Something about that just doesn't seem fair. And that's all I'm saying. It just doesn't seem fair. And how do I look at my staff? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're fine, Director Jackson. You're passionate. I think that the question that Commissioner Tyson was going to get to, or his concern from what I heard, is as we look to make to make those investments that should have been made years ago, just like we have in other areas, and we appreciate the light you're shining on this to the board. How do we? What we struggle, I think, what we struggle with is what if we fund all these now? Then when we look to increase those positions, those are additional dollars that we're going to have to find for that. And I think that's the question was is
I got you.
How do you do?
We are right-sized.
Do you see that as a concern as you're looking at your financial position of your organization?
No, because we are right-sized. We have the staff. We have the positions. So when you look at our statutory mandates for child protective services, we meet caseload standards if the positions are filled. And so if you take these positions away, when we're going to be out of requirements for state for caseload requirements. If we can get through a good compensation plan that is competitive, we can fill these positions. If we fill these positions, we are sufficiently staffed. We do not need, I have not asked for any additional positions. I have asked positions to be reclassified so that we can look at business redesign. I'm a pro at that. If you look at all my last budgets since the 18 years I've been here, you see where I've used reclassification to meet efficiencies in business redesign. But if you take them away, then you're talking about then having to reestablish them. But we need people in the positions, and if we get people in these positions, we can do this work and do it successfully. So I don't think we need any additional positions.
Thank you, Director Jackson. Turn to Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, let me thank you for giving a thorough reality of what's happening at DSS and what's happening in our community. As it's been stated several times before, we are unfortunately one of the highest child abuse counties in North Carolina. And with that being said, I cannot morally and ethically, everyone else has to make that decision, in which I will be asking my board members. But the bottom line is, I'm about saving children's lives now. Yesterday may be here, tomorrow may not be, and none of us may not be. So although we're talking about September, which is great and wonderful, that is not acceptable to me or to this community. Not when I am looking right there, and I've heard, like I said on Monday, a consultant sit here and say that we have fund balance. Well, I don't even need a consultant to tell me that. My question is to my colleagues, we see it for ourselves. So reality is, let's just keep it really transparent. Do we value our children enough to keep them safe, and our adults? It's not like fund balance has been used before. We see the numbers, we've discussed the numbers. So the real question is, are we going to give the direction to the staff? Because I know it's a very awkward situation for the staff to be in, but the bottom line is they do take directions from us. So I'm not going to sit here and shuck and jive my community. Funding is there, put it on the record. You got 7 commissioners here, have to make the decision. Do we want to abolish 61 jobs? You've given a thorough report. You've allowed us to understand the money mechanisms. And as I stated before, we do have an alternative solution available, such as utilizing these fund balance, which would avoid compromising essential services, which could keep children safe. So it's just up to us. The numbers don't lie. Or do we just want to continue to wait until September? You've already stated for the record as thoroughly as it can get with your 45 years experience. I, for one, as I stated before, and will state again, for Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, I feel it would be very irresponsible for us to critically the protection to lapse, and it would be negligent for us to know that there's funding sources, that's not on the staff, they take directions from us. Now, like I stated, that's on everybody individually. But me personally, I will be in full support. As you stated, you broke it down as clear as you can, and the bottom line comes down, we've talked about 8 million, we see 6.9 million left. It comes down to 7 commissioners here to decide in good faith individually what's important to do now or later. But let the record state that I personally, and thank you for that thorough information, will not be putting children's lives, might get outvoted, but I personally will not in good faith know that there's a fund balance to use and vote against it to save that of jobs that protect children and adults. Now, everybody else has to make that hard decision on their own, but let the record state, I've been put in this seat by the great, wonderful individuals and families of this community to keep their children safe and the vulnerable safe. So with that being said, I hope that the commissioners that I work with will reconsider, like they said it was consensus, but now that they've got the extra information, perhaps we will reconsider using the fund balance sources so that we can save children's lives now and also in September. But we got to live in the present now, because the last time I checked, child support cases were up, children are dying, and even that of adults. Now, I know it's uncomfortable. I'll be the one to, put out the uncomfortable, awkward situations people don't want to talk about. But the bottom line is, if you have money you use to save lives, that's what I'm for. Thank you, and everybody else got to make their own decision. Thank you, Chairman Deviere. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Director Jackson, thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion. 2 quick questions before we let you go. Does anybody else have any questions for Director Jackson? Questions? Because I don't want her standing up there while we're giving our opinion on where we're going to stand on this. So, do you have questions for Director Jackson?
We don't get to do that?
I would ask for we give questions. If you have a comment, Commissioner Faircloth, I'll gladly recognize you. No, I'm recognizing Commissioner Patel now. I will recognize you after that.
Sure.
If you'd like to make a comment, I would ask you to stick to questions, but if you'd like to make a comment, I will gladly give you that opportunity.
I'd appreciate the comments.
Director Jackson, thank you for your time and for your staff too to kind of hang out with us late in the evening. I don't think this board by any means looks at the work that you do as anything but the utmost importance, and I completely understand the environment's a little bit different and it's changing, and I'll be honest, as someone who's younger, and I see our workforce getting older, and we're not bringing in the talent, like you said. Burnout is getting real. Competition is real. I think, one of the things that I'm kind of concerned with is when we look at not just your department, but every department in the portfolio of the county and try to make sure that there's equity everywhere. My big ask for you to be, just tell me, what would you think the best plan is from a retention bonuses, from sign-up bonuses, for the counties or the other agencies that compete and basically take your invested dollars and training out the door after they're able to find a higher comp job. What has happened in the last couple of years, especially post-COVID, to really get a strategy that can bring these folks and keep them here? And I know we do COLAs. I know you've done reclassifications, but what would be the answer to really hire someone in their 20s, early 30s, and have them stick out a 25-year career here?
It is about money. The bottom line is it is about a competitive salary, and we should be. I would hope that in Cumberland County that we are far exceeding the counties around us. In most large counties, the small counties around them are training grounds, because then they go to the larger counties, and we're the opposite. We're the big fish in the small pond, and we're losing employees to small counties. And so we have to look at the regional competitiveness and have our salaries such that really, I'm shameless. I'll shamelessly steal from another county in terms of their employees, but being able to, honestly, they become training grounds for us. They train. The opposite. It needs to be the opposite way. The other piece to that is we got to have a little bit more flexibility within our budgets. Right now, if I want to do an in-range salary adjustment, I got to go through a whole process, even if the money's sitting in my budget. So you can't negotiate, even for even a minimum amount. So we don't have, as a department head, negotiating room. We don't. We just, even if it's in our budget, it's a process you got to go through. So that takes a while.
So you had mentioned that other counties or agencies are able to compete or negotiate at the table. What's different about Cumberland County? Is it a county policy? Is it a DSS policy? What is stopping you from using these tools that other counties are beating us up with? That's what I want to know.
I don't control salaries. That's not within my jurisdiction. Employees come in at the minimum salary. If we want to bring them higher, we have to go through a process for approval, and normally it's mainly senior level positions. We don't have autonomy to just manage our salary budget, nor do we have autonomy that when we have lapsed salaries, that we're able to retain those funds. We usually end up somewhere between $4 and $8 million in lapsed salaries. So these positions that are funded at the end of the year, Cumberland County DSS does not get to keep the money. It comes right back into the county's coffers. So you're funding money with county dollars that at the end of the year, when those positions are not filled, you turn around and you get it back. The county gets it back. I'm not able to reinvest those funds in creative things like the sheriff's department is doing. We're not able. I've not been able to do that. And so we don't have I have a lot of autonomy over some things statutorily, but budget and salaries and those kinds of things are at the county level. So I don't have that flexibility and autonomy. Sign-on bonuses, all those things, I don't have that flexibility. I would love it. I would love to keep my lap salaries too. At least some of it.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Fairclough, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Brandon, I think probably you're the best spokesman for your organization. I don't know how many of your 45 years I've worked with you, but I know it's a lot of them.
18.
And I've never ceased to be impressed, pleased, and just thoroughly enamored of the work that you've done, and you know that. We've talked about things,
Yes,
you know.
we do.
And I want to help you. Not it's your problem, it's our problem. Understanding, I think, is the first rung of the ladder of getting us to where we want to be, and I think you provided us more understanding here this afternoon than all the lectures we get and the accusations we get and staff gets of some nefarious activities. But you put us in possession of the truth, and I think it makes everybody here want to jump on the bandwagon and get this problem solved. It's amazing to me how we have the caseload that we have compared to like a Mecklenburg County, which has 3 or 4 times the people, and we know what the problem is, and nobody wants to say it, but it's our problem. We have to deal with it because we enjoy the paycheck every 2 weeks that comes from. What did you say?
Fort Bragg.
He said it, Fort Bragg.
Exactly.
And we love them. But they bring, Cumberland and Onslow County have the distinction of being the youngest counties in the state. When you just average out the age, and with youth comes problems. And so I'm ready to see this plan. And whatever it takes to get it going. That's what I want to see. And if we've got to come out of the hip pocket with a little spiff to get it started, we might just have to do that. And if the credit rating suffers a little bit, we'll deal with it. We don't borrow that much money. We have tremendous debt capacity. We can borrow a heck of a lot more than we pay back. But we need to figure this thing out, and thank you for being here. And please don't walk away from here thinking your time has been wasted, because it has not. I mean, I can tell, and we appreciate you so very much. And I want to tell you that, and just ask what I can do to help.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fairclough, just to clarify, you said the plan. Do you mean the current plan that's been presented for what we're talking about in budget, or the plan for the retention reclassification?
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what we need to
help
get out of the hole we're in and stay out of it. That's the plan. We'll get through the budget, but with her leadership, we'll get through the crisis as well.
Commissioners, other questions for Director Jackson? So a question from the chair along the same vein that Commissioner Fairclough was going. Do you have a existing plan for retention bonuses that you have that you mentioned other departments have had retention bonuses? That's because we created a pool because a plan was brought to us. So do you have a plan around retention that's not actually being done right now? Those are one-time dollars, is why I asked that.
Yes.
So those are retention dollars. So, E.C. Bradley, if we can work to, never mind, I'm not going to direct. So you have a plan.
So I actually submitted an outline of retention bonuses to the county manager this morning.
Okay. County Manager Greer.
He probably hadn't had a chance to see it, but I did send it to him.
I got it at 7 a.m. this morning.
Yes.
I haven't had the opportunity to review it.
I understand, County Manager. And that wasn't a question around that. It was more of a question on, do we have one, so that we could look at that. That's kind of what we've done in other departments when we look at supplemental, and we look at retention bonuses and those kinds of things. And then the other thing that I have is, so we've talked a lot about vacant positions and lapsed salaries and all these terms.
Yeah.
When we look at vacant positions that are unfunded, do you have fundamental concerns? Because vacant positions don't mean they're abolished. That just means we've unfunded them so that we can do other things with those dollars. We do that across departments, and lapsed salaries are used in a different way. Do you have concern that if you came back with unfunded vacant positions, do you have concerns that this board would not fund those positions if you needed them at the time?
And I would say yes to that, and not because I don't trust this board, so let me just put that preference out there. But I've been in this county 18 years. I know how it works. It is like pulling teeth. If it doesn't happen, it's like pulling teeth. And I'm especially concerned if the prominent message in this budget has been flat revenues, concern about revenues. That makes it hard to trust that there are going to be revenues to do this. And the other thing is, and maybe that's a conversation we need to have in a different setting, but right now it's difficult. It is not unusual to take months to get a reclass. It's not unusual, and so time ticks and things move so slow. And so a situation, we come ask for a position and it take a year to get it. And how many proposals we got to submit and justifications we got to submit. So the tradition, and no reflection on this management, but the tradition in this county has been, if you lose it, you're more than likely not going to get back. That has been my experience. And so my hesitancy is based on experience and definitely my concern that it has been clearly communicated about the funding challenges. So it's difficult to have confidence that there's going to be money when you're already concerned about it not being there. And so
I hear your answer, and thank you so much. Thank you for your candor. I'll tell you, you have a different board and different management team as well. I'll just leave that there and let that breathe for a second. But so my question is, I understand, would there be a level that you'd be comfortable with? So if there were vacant positions and it was we only unfunded X positions and you still had to come back to the board, but that gave you, we looked at the critical positions, or we looked at certain positions, that we didn't abolish the positions. Those positions are there. But we don't have to tie up COLA dollars, and we don't have to tie up additional dollars. But if you need to come back to us to fill, say it's above the 50% line or whatever that line is, you can come back to us. Is there a percentage level, or you want to tightly hold all your positions because you don't feel that this board or that you would be able to get those funded if you needed them in an amount of time? And I think I heard yes. I just want to confirm that.
yeah, there's a fear factor there.
Okay.
I'm just going to be honest with you.
And again, I appreciate your candor.
Yeah.
Director Jackson, thank you for your time. Thank you for answering these questions. And I think to Commissioner Fairclough's point, I think you have a board that was listening.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Board, it's 8:30. We're not going to move into community support. I don't know if we had one other action that needed to come forward. There was a request around, I think we've already talked about it, so from Vice Chairwoman around the 61 and 41 against the fund balance. I think we have that there. So this is the answer to that last due out. So it's a $6.98 million total impact to include COLAs. Again, board, if we change that COLA percentage, that gets affected as well. So let's put that in perspective as well. But I think that answers to the Vice Chairwoman's point about $8 million there. There's $6.9 million of fund balance impact. So I think that captures all our due outs. It's a lot of information. I don't know if there is a direction we want to look at or digest this and provide direction after today. I will look to the board for some comments. Commissioner Tyson and Commissioner Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I can tell you, since coming on this board, one of the things I've realized is that we here in Cumberland County, we have a lot of strengths, but we also have a lot of challenges. And I think we've seen from our water to our education to our public safety to our social services and our health services, we've got a lot of challenge, Mr. Chairman, and I think it's a challenge that this board can take. I think our management team's up for the task, but we've got a lot of work to do. And, earlier today I asked Finance if they give me a copy of the audit. And I always like to look at the audit because it's kind of like checking the homework on how we did last year with our budget last year. And one of the sections in the audit I really like to look at is the management's discussion and analysis, because it really kind of speaks to what happened. We started here, we budgeted here, but what happened? And, there's a couple of sections, and I'll be brief, that in this analysis that I can tell you are some big challenges. Page 8 of that management report says general revenues decreased by $11,025,780. Government activities expenses increased by $21,522. $13 million of the decrease in revenues was grants and contributions not restricted to specific programs, to include sales tax equalization from Fayetteville. And as I look through this, we've got a trend that we as a board really have to take a hard look at. And I think we've received a lot of information tonight. I know I'm not prepared to say that one way or another, or which way or this way, but I can tell you, and as one of 7 here today, that I look at the responsibility this community's placed on me in this seat with great care and dedication. And it's going to be something that I'm going to take a lot of time and effort to review. This entire budget, take a lot of time and effort to review, because what the manager's discussion and analysis and the audit tells me is, hey, there's a storm still coming, and we've got to be ready for it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Patel, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, just to keep it brief, I like to talk a lot, so.
I got a comment, you can go to your mic.
I think we received a lot of information tonight. I don't know if I'd be ready to make a decision on some of these items, so if at our next budget session, I'd like some time to digest and review.
My intent is, again, just like we've done with other things, we're going to move this item over into our parking lot, which we did the other night, and we'll continue to look at those. The parking lot is where we are looking at the revenue side of the additions and subtractions along those, and so we'll move it to the parking lot so we can continue to move through the rest of some of the budget and then make some decisions along the way. Some of these things are going to be critical for us to make, because staff is going to need time to do the things they need to do administratively to prepare the budget. So, coming soon, we'll be making decisions. Commissioner Adams, did you have something?
No, sir.
Vice Chairman Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if it's possible for the staff, if we could see what it would take if they went back and refigured some numbers, if they were to tell us what it would look like if we were to perhaps fund with the fund balance of 61 and then just put on freeze. No, it says unfunded now, but put on freeze the other 41. Is there any way you all could go back and configure, if the board were to decide to use fund balance to keep the 61 positions? Again, can you put something together to say, since we do have to digest all that information, what it would look like, or if you could go configure other areas if we were to decide to use fund balance for the 61, and then on the 41 positions to just freeze those? Retain the 61, in other words. What would it look like if we retained the 61, go back configuring, looking through all of our allocated dollars, and even if we decide to use the fund balance for the 61 and then put the freeze on the 41 fundings? Is there any way you all can do some configurations or research and go back and do that, Mr. Greer?
For policy, if we use the 61, and that's $4,241,946 based on the screen up front, if the COLA and everything stays the same, that means the remaining fund balance that could be utilized would be $3,790,994 $1,000,000.58. Again, I caution because, again, that is one-time funding, and those are recurring dollars that we're taking against fund balance. And then you have to add another $2.9 million that we already know that we're going to have to be dealing with next year. But I think right now, if you just say this fiscal year, the remaining amount would be $3,790,994.58.
And so, Vice Chairman, if I could, just to clarify your ask. So the 61 abolished positions, you would like to see them become vacant positions that are funded. And then you want to see the 41, as it's listed up there, unfunded positions would be 41 vacant positions that are frozen, but the dollars are still allocated to them.
I would like to see the 41 frozen, but to see if it's possible, those abolished positions, is there any way that we can retain those instead of having them abolished?
But my question, Vice Chair, is just for clarification. If we put those 61 positions back, because they're vacant right now.
Right.
And let me just, because they're vacant right now. They can be vacant funded or vacant unfunded. Do you want to see those 61 positions vacant and funded or vacant and unfunded?
I wanted them to be, you can put positions on, they could be funded but on freeze, like on hold, like you can't,
It's fund or unfund. In essence, if they're unfunded, they're frozen because there's no dollars attached to them, but the positions aren't gone. So
Right.
if the positions were filled by chance, then we'd have to do a budget amendment and move those dollars back. So my question is, the 61 positions, so we're kind of keeping all the same terminology, it's 61 positions you want to see come back.
Yes, vacant funded, right.
Vacant funded, okay, so
Right.
that's the
And then
number.
restore the 41 freeze, exactly.
The 41 would be vacant funded positions. So
Absolutely.
in essence, it's 6.9 million, 6.98 million.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct, thank you.
That's the,
Let me say one other thing.
Vacant funded, correct, I said it wrong.
I would request from social services that they provide us the funding mechanism for these vacant positions, because then that would be an offset to the use of fund balance. So if we get federal and state, if these positions,
county manager.
that's okay.
No, please go
That's-
ahead.
that's
No,
okay.
no, please, your request.
That's
You
okay.
good? So one thing I want to, as we're talking about all these positions, I just want to be clear on something, and maybe a clarification, County Manager. So in any of these positions, we're talking about 102 positions. There's not a person in those positions, so we're not seeing a person physically lose their job.
Correct.
And we are not laying off anyone. So there's no one in the position. We are just, these positions are empty for whatever reason. We know we have retention, we know we have recruitment issues, we know we have all the issues we talked about that this board's committed to addressing. But right now, those positions are vacant. So there's no one in those positions.
No, sir, not to my knowledge. If there were, there was going to be a swap. The people in Connective Care, they have found positions to be moved. Assistant County Manager Schemes has done that.
Okay. I just want to confirm. I know we're talking about positions, and I just want to be clear that we understand that no one's getting laid off and no one has been removed from their position. These are vacant positions that we have, again, through retention and recruitment, we have not filled these positions. So I just want to be clear on that. Board, I think what I'm hearing is we need time to digest this. I'm going to move this in the parking lot. If y'all bear with me for one thing, I need to add one more thing to the parking lot. We talked a little bit about it last time, but very briefly, County Manager, if we can very briefly discuss the Board of Elections proposal that was sent to us, just so we can move it over in the parking lot and have it there. And I think if ACM Bradley, or who has that, very briefly, if we can just talk to that.
Yes, approximately about a month ago, we received a request from the Board of Elections to reclass some positions The approximate amount of these reclasses total about $168,000 for their positions. At the time that we received that, it wasn't part of the budget. Staff's thought was they're going through a transition, and I wouldn't want to make a decision for that board or bring a recommendation, and they're going through a transition at this time. But again, it's in the parking lot, and that's it. I need to go back to something.
Okay, real quick, County Manager, before you move back off of that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just, there's a reclass and an additional position, there was two additional positions,
Two
correct?
additional positions.
And that dollar amount was,
It totals, I don't know what, I can't
300,000?
remember, but it was total about it would be approximately $200,000 roughly, somewhere around that amount, but I can't remember right offhand.
so if we can just get that number so we can add that total number.
$204,801, and that's for the reclasses and the positions.
All right.
I was off $4,000.
Commissioner Adams, you recognize.
Mr. Chair, my thing would be just to move that to the August when we do all the rest of it, September, as opposed to putting it in the parking lot.
We
It's just-
we can move it down the parking lot later, I'm just
Yeah.
moving it over because it was a request that came
Yeah.
into the board, and I think, because it's reclass as well as
Yeah.
Commissioner Tyson.
Mr. Chairman, not speaking about this particular item, but I did have something else to add to the parking lot.
Is it
Whenever
around
it's appropriate
personnel?
time.
We're still on personnel.
No, sir.
And we're going to get to the departments, so if there's something in the departments, we can add it there. County Manager Greer, please finish your thoughts, sir.
My what I was trying to say with the previous on this $4,200,000, those positions are tied to federal and state funding. So if we re-engage those positions, then we would need to re-engage the federal and state funding to offset the use of fund balance. And I would request, and what I was going to request is that that be provided by social services, because none of their funding is, technically, all of the general fund funding for the social services is kind of like a match. They get federal and state funding, and so that would offset the use of the fund balance. And then that way we would be able to maintain the fund balance. So that's all I was trying to say, and all I was requesting is that for those 61 positions, if there's $2 million or if it's $3 million, then we do that, and we have a way to bump that up and reflect it in the revenues and offset the expenses, and then fund balance would be the net.
So just to be clear.
Some of the positions have cost sharing, some may not.
Yeah, so
But
So-
but
so that-
DSS can identify.
So the ask is, I guess the ask from us to y'all, and then y'all to DSS, is we need to look at the positions and what the cost sharing is and how that will offset the fund balance investment.
Yeah, and if we can, the sooner the better, if we can get that information.
So who,
We'll
You'll request it?
We engage the social services director in their
Okay.
department tomorrow.
and feel free to CC the liaison if you need to.
If you could, please, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. If you all could do that, I'd appreciate it.
So
Thank you.
that's a good question, that's good input, thank you, County Manager. Anything else we want to look around? So we're going to add the Board of Education personnel
No,
request, Board of Elections, thank you,
You okay? It's late.
to the parking lot, and then
We lose it.
that completes our personnel, we've completed benefits. Board, just very briefly, our next meeting is on the 18th. I'm going to ask the clerk, the next window I saw after that is on the 22nd, for us to be able to meet. We'd have a couple windows to do that. You'd have a same kind of afternoon time, to be respectful of that afternoon time, 2:30 to 5, or you could do a 5 to 7:30. That's going to be our next available window to do this. We've got, unless we're meeting after or before our Monday night meeting, and that'll be difficult. So I think our next budget meeting is on the 18th. It's at 2:30 to 5. Then we could look at the 22nd and either look at 2:30 to 5 or 5:30 or 5 to 7:30 like we're doing now. But we're going to have to add another one in because we still have to get through Community funding, we still have to get through, general fund, all the department budgets, fund balance, freed up capacity, and community funding, and then we gotta address the parking lot. So we may have to go a little deeper in one of these meetings, but it's late tonight, so I'm gonna pause. Commissioner Tyson, Commissioner,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I add an alibi from something we've gone over, just because I've got some new information on it, if that's okay with you, for the parking lot?
go ahead.
I talked to Dr. Sorrells over at FTCC, and I know we had discussed during our debt model discussion about the bond issuance. He had mentioned to me that what they were hoping in their funding request was that we would add their total capital request in with the school debt model, so that when we go out for debt for the schools, that we would also go out for debt for that request. And so I know that the appropriation that we were looking at was less than what their full capital ask was, but he just wanted to make sure that we all understood he wasn't asking for that total amount in this budget cycle. He was just asking for that request to go in to the education debt model. And I just wanted to see if we could put that in the parking lot.
We'll move out of the parking lot. We gotta finalize the debt model, so.
And then could he, or
Thank you,
someone,
Mr. Chairman.
can he put that in writing? I'm sure you all did talk and stuff, but I'd love for somebody, for him or somebody in his staff to send that to all the Board of Commissioners for examine, put that in writing, please.
I'll talk to President Sorrells and ask him to do that. It was actually in the presentation that he delivered to us at the lunch. But I'll get him to, yeah, we were there. But I think we left before he finished briefing it. I'll get him to send that to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Anything else, board? So looking at the 22nd, Commissioner Adams.
Sometimes I guess it's late. And I see 61 abolished and 41 unfunded. So I guess from my point in terms of DSS, they're not looking at, it's 102 positions. So the question is, with 41, I know there's some unfunded, but is it just gonna come out of the 102? Because it makes a difference, because of cost of where they are, if that makes any kind of sense to you.
Yes, there was a difference of 959,000 approximately today. And just the same scenario that I said just a few minutes ago, we could take care of that difference in that way. The problem is that the concern, not a problem, but the concern is they still have like 40-some positions they can hire for, but again, the budget creep, and that's the thing. But we can work it through.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess.
Bless you.
It's that, say we do 41, and Vice Chair, this is, for me, is, we're not filling it. I mean, they're vacancies, and they're gonna be sitting there vacant. I mean, how many can you fill within a certain period of time? So you do 20, put the other 20 over, and you can always do a budget revision later on to be able to, if you fill those 20, now you got another 20, you go fill those. If that's just.
And Commissioner Adams, that's why I asked the question about what the director was comfortable with.
Right.
Vacant positions and coming back to the board.
Right.
Because I would say that if you're willing to say 50%, then we fund 50%, and then after that, you come back to us.
Right, and you do a
But I
budget
heard
revision.
zero.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but that might be her, that's her belief, that's not necessarily our belief.
Oh, I understand.
And so, you know, because there are other fund, out of that fund balance, there's some other requests. And so you can't use it all in this one thing. So, I mean, if you had these and they hadn't been filled, just to fund them to sit there that's not even business, it doesn't make business sense to me. So here's 20, whether you need to have as Commissioner Patel was saying, you need some one-time bonuses to be able to get those 20, then we fill those 20, you do a budget revision or whatever on the next 10, and we get there. As opposed to, it's almost like me taking $100,000 and putting it in a savings account that makes 0.01%, or I take my money and put it in a high yield savings account at 4%. Don't be talking about me now, man. I know what you finna say. So, I mean, that to me is the difference, is.
He said, what's the savings account?
Oh, that's what he said. Yeah, those people do that. That's what I got it. I know exactly what he said. No, you don't know what he said. I know exactly what he's thinking. But, I mean, I ain't got no red on today. Over here, there you go. But, I mean, so I think we need to think around those kind of actions also. That's just me.
Thank you, Commissioner
Because
Adams.
that saves my other money to get my program.
Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay, I would like for the opportunity, as we stated earlier while she was here, sometimes when you put in your application, it takes 6, 7 months just to even get it cleared. So if we could allow the manager the opportunity to work with Ms. Jackson and her team to see, again, as he stated, also to get the other information that he was requesting, if we could see what it would look like for the 61 vacants to be funded, restored, and 41 freeze and funded, just to give them a chance to work that out, as he stated, because that other money, we won't know that until they look at what positions are what, and he can see, again, as he stated, what will come down from the state. I would just like them, the experts, to give the opportunity to talk to her and see what they can come with, if that would be fine.
Vice Chairman, just let me just,
Before we start, I understand exactly what you are saying.
no, I'm just capturing what you're saying. So I think what we were saying before is, so we're gonna look at the 102 positions, if they're funded, if they're vacant and funded, I don't want to use the word freeze or anything, if they're vacant and funded, then what's by position, what's the state and federal match that, so that we can offset the fund balance? I think that's a request.
Yeah, my request is, like I said, 61 vacant funded and restored of the 41 freeze and fund.
Right.
Like,
Vacant, they'll be vacant funded, correct.
for the 61, and then
And
for the
for the
41 to be exactly funded as well. It just basically they'll be on hold.
Vacant and funded,
Right, and then he can see how much of that money, as he stated.
federal and state.
Federal and state.
Yes,
I'm sure they can probably work that out.
Make that request. Anything else, Vice Chair?
No.
Commissioner Tyson, we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I appreciate my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Adams' discussion, and that's why I did ask and just confirmed, in FY '25, there was, just for information, there was 24 total positions filled in FY '25. In FY '26, there was 15 total positions filled. So I just wanted to make sure we confirmed that, and she confirmed it tonight. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioners, anything else that we need to cover tonight? County Manager, anything?
No,
we need?
we're good, we're good.
We've got the block and tackling that we determined on 18th is our next budget meeting, 22nd. We've got 2 windows to do that, 2:30 to 5 and 5 to 7:30. On the 22nd of June, looking at 2 to 5:30 and 5 to 7:30.
On the same day?
No, 1 and 2.
Say what now?
On the 22nd, we need to add another day versus the clerk sending it around while we're all here. We can look at the 20, we've got our next budget meeting's already set for the 18th, from 2:30 to 5:30. We need to look at another budget work session on the 22nd. So we can either choose to do the 2:30 to 5, which is the afternoon slot, which is accommodating,
From 1 to 3.
or 5 to 7:30. And you can say,
1 to 3 is better for me.
Yeah, 1 to 3 is better for me, Mr. Chair.
Me too, because in that way we won't be out.
Chiefs Association.
all right, 1 to 3? Well, that's what 2:30 to 5 was for. 2:30 to 5, 1 to 3.
Yeah, we go over at 5 and we sit here.
Okay. All right, so, Madam Clerk, we're going to look at 22 June, 1 to 3. If you will put that on our calendars tonight, and then, so it's held and everybody's aware of it, and they don't forget, like me. All right, so 22 June, 1 to 3. we'll update the agenda, we'll get that back out to you. I'll talk with budget team and chief and county manager, and we'll get the updated schedule out to you. I will ask, the first thing we're going to talk about next, on the 18th, is the community funding. We need to look at that, and we need to make some decisions on that as well. So that'll be the first thing that we look at. Anything else for tonight? Yes, ma'am.
I did have one quick question. So it's okay for me to start telling HR to start moving forward with what they need to do with the sheriff's plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else we need to come for tonight?
There's one in the hockey game.
Thank you for that.
Who scored first?
Vice Chairman Jones, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We've got a motion to adjourn, it's been properly seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. We're adjourned. Thank you.